Hey, everybody. Aaron Glenn, of course, announced the Jets will be starting Tyrod Taylor this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to break down the quarterback decision and preview the game ahead for the green and white coming up right now with Baldy and Bart.
We beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
Picked off! Aaron Glenn! Jumbled and caught! Jumbo Elliott! One-handed catch! Chris Bart gets running loose. Reeves can't wait.
Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride.
The official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Personalize your game day look by shopping spirited styles and so much more at your local Kendra Scott store or kendrascott.com, where team spirit meets personal style. Baldy and Bart, great seeing you guys. I know Bart's down in Maryland handing out turkeys. Where are you right now, Baldy?
I'm right here at my film room on third floor at NFL Films, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Not handing out any turkeys, but, Bart's doing, he's doing the yeoman's work out there right now.
Well, we have a lot
but 3 strikes is a turkey.
Well, we have a lot to be thankful for. This is the Bart Scott Super Bowl this week, Baldy, because Bart started his career with the Ravens and, of course, finishes his career with the Jets, and he still has connections with both teams. I don't know. What do we think about this matchup?
Well, I mean, Baltimore, they're coming out of the crypt. They were in it at 1-5, but in the last 4 games, nobody's put up 20 points on them. And, and that includes the Rams, who might be the hottest team in football. Defensively, they got healthy. They got right. They picked up some people, added some pieces, to the back end of their defense. But Kyle Hamilton, Roquan, some of the names that are staples of Ravens style of defense are showing up right now. And you got to account for these guys.
Bart, before we get into that, what is it going to be like for you watching this game from 1 to 4 o'clock there as you see your former teams battle?
I'm like the parent with the split jersey. You know what I'm saying? Half and half, right down the middle, baby, straight down the middle. It's going to be fun because last week you saw Cleveland could have played spoiler. I mean, one big catch by the receiver, the Shador pass, and everybody's looking at the Ravens like, man, I can't believe you lost to Cleveland. And, conference games are always like that because the familiarity of it. But Myles Garrett got busy. 4 sacks against Action Jackson. And I know he looked a little bit fresher with his hamstring, but,
right.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see how these linebackers, Quincy and Sherwood, handle the physicality. Because these are one of those games where, like, if you go down there and you step on the train tracks and you decleat King Henry or Ricard come in there and you push his easy button and put that factory reset back in his head, people going to start looking at you different ways. I always love games like this where somebody had a big-time tailback and a big-time fullback because, this tough guy, this who you believe in? Let me show you what I do to him too. And it doesn't matter how little you are. It's the conviction. But when you get in that hole, because listen, you're going to get some traditional stuff. I broke, the play I broke down, right? And I'm sure Baldy ran it. They had what we call a Trump look, likely as the receiver.
About the Derrick Henry long run there?
Yes.
I call it a double wham, like a double wham.
Yeah. So you have a Trump look. You were basically got a tight end at receiver, so that's a big body. Collier is like 6'6". He comes on the wham block. That allows Linderbaum to go straight to the linebacker, and then you have a 300-pound fullback coming there, right? So they're going to change the math and change the numbers. You're going to see some of the most unique formations and personnel groupings that you've ever seen if you're the Jets, and you just have to have a plan for it. Ain't no squeeze, nothing. You got to spill everything. You got to seal your body in the inside with your body and seal the outside gap with his body. And it's none of this because all these are designed to put a hat on a hat and you run out of math. What you have to do if you're the Jets is when you come down there, it's not enough to get the fullback. You got to get the fullback and the pulling guard. You got to come out and put your big boy pads on, baby. This is football like I love it. This is in between the trenches. This is like if you're a man, show me you're a man. If you're a tough guy, let me see you're a tough guy. It's body blows early in the game and see if you still have the same enthusiasm to step on their train tracks in the third and fourth quarter as you had in the first.
Well, you got your enthusiasm and your big points, big pants on right now, but let's not bury the lead here, fellas. The Jets are going to have a new starting quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. Baldy, what do you make of the decision, but more so, how will Taylor's insertion into the lineup impact the offense?
Well, I mean, first of all, Tyrod started like Bart, with the Ravens. His first four years were there. And honestly, I remember when he was there, and like he was the next Mike Vick coming out of Virginia Tech. Like he could, time slows all of us down. It's not quite the same. But, I think one of the things we have to find out, EA, is you picked up A.D. Mitchell. You picked up John Mechie. You got Arian Smith. We got to find out if there's no Garrett Wilson, right? So we got to find out who these guys are, and can they be a part of this nucleus going forward? And I think Tyrod gives you a better chance for completions. Just get the ball in these guys' hands. Because they all show, they all show potential, right? A.D. Mitchell is 6'3", he's 205. He ran the 4.3s, coming out of school. Like he's got legitimate talent. But let's see if Tyrod can get him in there and just get some simple completion, shallow crosses, hitches, like quick slants. Let's get completions here, and let's see what these guys can do. And I think Tyrod gives you a better chance right now as we try to evaluate some of these guys going forward.
Exactly right. Touch and anticipation, right? Coming across the middle, throwing a friendly ball. It's not about how fast you get it there. It's being a catchable ball where I can do something with it. And, A.D. Mitchell really impressed me. I said, listen, I can't wait to see him with Garrett. If Garrett decides to move into the slot, you got a guy that can clear out the defense, a guy that's also can be competitive with some of the bigger receivers or corners in his league. I was very impressed. Like, the end result wasn't what you wanted. He dropped the deep pass and then the crossing route, but he was there and he created tremendous separation. That showed you, like, the scariest thing in the world is a big man that can create separation. Because usually he's a 50-50 ball guy. He's a DeAndre Hopkins guy. He's a Plexico Burress guy. But every once in a while you get guys, and I'm not calling them Megatron, but you get guys that are big and tall that can separate, and that's scary because You don't make, most guys don't make interceptions when it's one-on-one because they just want to get the ball down. They want to make the tackle. But, if you go for the ball, you try and swipe, then you only have one arm to pull down a guy that's 6'3", about 200 plus pounds. And that's not easy to do when you have a lot of these flimsy, soft corners out here right now.
Baldy, I came out of New England encouraged because Mechie got involved. He got the touchdown. He had 3 catches as well. You both have talked about Mitchell, and he was winning off the line of scrimmage against a very good cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. So it was this close to, hey, Mitchell having 3 catches and 70 yards and things like that. So those 2 newcomers you got to take a long look at here, especially with Garrett Wilson being an injured reserve. Also, Mason Taylor continues to impress. And the Jets have also said repeatedly they want to get Breece Hall more involved in the pass game.
Well, I agree with all those things. But, here's the thing. Like, A.D. Mitchell was the 4th wide receiver in Indianapolis. He wasn't getting time. Pierce and, all those guys, Josh Downs, all those guys were playing. Same thing with Mechie when he was in Houston. They had all their – and Mechie had some injuries. When he came to Philly, he didn't have a role in Philly. They had all their guys, and they didn't throw the ball anyways. So this is a great opportunity for these guys to really step up and get a good 6-7 game opportunity here to maybe establish themselves as NFL players. Mason Taylor as well, because anybody that's watched Mason Taylor at practice or in a little bit in the games, but especially at practice, like the guy is big and smooth and can run. He can cover ground, and he's very fluid getting in and out of his. He's got great movement, and so like you'd love to see, Mason Taylor run some of these routes. I mean, even like tight end screens that everybody's running in this league, delayed screens come, like there's so many different ways to get these guys the ball to see what they can do with it in their hands, and I think this is a great opportunity for all these guys because they're not low in the depth chart. They've been pushed up because of the situation right here. It's a fantastic opportunity to showcase themselves.
Bart, do you anticipate more? Go ahead. Do you anticipate more shots down the field with a guy like Taylor?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he throws a great deep ball, and you're going to have opportunities. Listen, this Ravens secondary is decorated by name, but they give up plays. And you talk about what I'm excited about. I mean, Myles Garrett was held relatively in check, by this offensive line. Listen, I don't know if he's reached the status of rookie Mekhi Becton, but man, when I see Baldy break down Membu, I think he gets excited that way a little bit because he has that same physicality. I mean, he's a guy that'll lay on you, finish you, and I love the veteran savvy from last week with slapping the hands down and making guys fall forward and just land on top of them, and just like that's the most discouraging thing ever when you got a big fat dude putting his belly on the back of your neck when you're sitting there and like. You know that if you try and get up violently, then he's going to push you down violently. So you just kind of give up and kind of say, okay, I'll live to fight another day. But, this Ravens pass rush is something that leaves a bit to be desired this year. So you talk about opportunities to be able to throw the ball down the field because Mechie or Smith or Mitchell's going to have opportunities to run the route because I think Tyrod is going to be protected enough where he's going to feel emboldened inside of the pocket to throw the ball down the field because the Ravens don't have a lot of pass rushers. And if they add the blitz with Hamilton, there are going to be opportunities down the field with 101s all over the place.
Baldy, you're starting to see this come together, the Jets' vision offensively, because Bart just mentioned it. This offensive line's been really good. They rushed for 140 yards against the Patriots. You do have the young tight end when Mason Taylor. Ruckert is contributing as well. You have Adonai Mitchell, who potentially could be your number 2 receiver. Mechie is a guy who's taking advantage of his opportunities, gives you some real intrigue at the slot position. You do have that draft capital. So, I mean, down the line, you can see the moment at hand right now, but you also can see the vision of this whole thing taking place right now.
Well, it starts up front, EA. Honestly, like they've actually, for the first time, I mean, we've all been watching the Jets forever. Like for the first time in a long time, this group has stayed healthy. They've been able to line up every week, practice every week. They're all young. So they all can go out there and practice. Not like when you bring old guys in and they're sitting on the sideline Wednesday and Thursday, just getting ready for the game. I mean, these guys, you can practice them, you can work them, you can train them, and now they're starting to get to know each other. Josh and Tip and Membu. And, honestly, one of the things I always look for when I study these guys is the guy on the ground a lot. Like Armand Membu is not on the ground. He's putting guys on the ground, but he's on his feet. He's got tremendous balance. One of the things you look at when you evaluate guys, I don't care what round they get drafted in. That doesn't matter. What matters is, are they an athlete? Can they stay on their feet? Because if you can stay attached and on your feet, it doesn't matter if it's Myles Garrett out there. It doesn't matter if Kyle Van Noy is coming. If you can stay on your feet and move your feet, you can stay between the quarterback and your man. And that's what I see from Membu. Like he's got elite ability. He just has to see more, but he does show what you want in a first round pick. And I think he's got a bright future because he's got real power. He can really, and that's something that lacking in a lot of these college kids is real power to move big bodies. He can move big bodies.
Bart, how about the Jets guards? I mean, Joe Tippmann was in that center competition during training camp, and then AVT goes down, and they say, hey, you're going to start at right guard for us. And look at how he's played this year. And then this game's got to mean a lot personally to John Simpson after his experience with the Ravens, of course.
Yeah, and he's also, auditioning for a new contract and saying, hey, man, well, this guy is gritty. He's our leader. I mean, he's the guy that does the grimy work. He sets the tone for them. He's a guy that's great in the pull game. And one of the benefits of getting rid of Sauce and Michael Carter and Quinnen Williams is you got a lot of tremendous, salary cap relief. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, Tippmann, I still like Tippmann back at center because I think that's his best position. Mm-hmm. But you can take a flyer on a guy like Vera Tucker if you decide to franchise tag him for a year and see if he can stay healthy finally or something like that. That's the beauty of being able to create salary cap space and having draft equity. You can go draft people and you can fill these positions. But right now you have these guys that are playing together, they're getting chemistry, they're getting that nonverbal communication. I'm more excited about this offensive line because this offensive line, if you decide to go improve it or add to it in the offseason, it just makes everything else better. It makes the run game better, makes the quarterback better. It makes the receivers better because you get that extra second and a half or half a second to be able to process. And it's all about being able to process because all zones got holes in it, and all man-to-man guys get beat or lose separation when you have opportunities to have time to burp the baby.
Baldy, I've been really impressed by offensive coordinator Tanner Angstrand, his growth as a play caller. What have you seen from him? Even going back, I know the Jets only scored 14 points against the Patriots, but that first drive was a thing of beauty. And he's doing a lot of motion. He's getting a lot of different people involved. I just think he's getting more creative as the year has gone by.
Well, he has. And there's a lot. I mean, this league right now is just evolving so fast. I mean, Bart watches it every week, but we're seeing so much 13 personnel, Bart, in this league where they'll use Max Mitchell, Mitchell along with Ruckert, along with Taylor, to force the defense to defend another gap, in the run game or in protection. You're seeing it across the league. The Rams are probably number one at it, but, he's got the quarterback under center. You're getting some play action right now. So you can get your speedo routes down the field. You're starting to see this stuff. Now, he's new. It's a very young group. It's a new group of receivers. So he can't just give the whole book. You can't run before you can walk. So I feel like they're growing together, EA. And as the line, because there was days earlier this year when the line was not good, but you can see the cohesion, how they're playing together. And now once you start building on that, you can start adding more motions, more specific plays, tweak things a little bit, put a receiver in the backfield and run the wheel. You can grow this thing as they kind of grow together. And I'm encouraged because I think Tanner's creative. And you got to be creative in this league. If you line up and you're an 11 personnel, I mean, you're just going to get whipped in this league. So you got to throw the formations, the motions. You got to throw a bunch of cheese at guys like Bart Scott. They're too smart. If you know the formation, you know the freaking play. So you got to keep changing it up.
Yeah, another guy the Jets want to get involved offensively who has really started on special teams is Isaiah Williams. So watch him as well. Yeah. Bart Taylor, so calm, and he remains a dual threat even now in his 15th year. The dude is ageless. But with that being said, Fields had 11 carries for 67 yards against the Patriots. How will this look differently as far as the run game is concerned? Because you still can do a lot of the same similar concepts with Taylor, but I can't imagine you'll see him running as much as you did with Fields.
It'll be running different. It won't be design runs. It'll be scramble runs. It'll be because he goes down, goes to his 1, 2, 3, 4 check, recognize the formation or recognizes the coverage, and he'll take off and he'll get scramble yards like Baker Mayfield does, right? It's still effective because he's a threat to run away. And if you have guys that are getting super deep in their zones, he'll run and get you 5 to 10 yards. But also if you go man to man, he has the ability to break through with this offensive line, putting a hat on a hat to be able to get some of the big yardage. And, it may not be the dynamic beating somebody to the corner, but he's very savvy. He's very smart. He's not as explosive as Justin Fields at this point in his career, but he's still a guy that can be effective. And he's able to buy time to throw down the field because he knows where to go with the ball and manipulate guys with his eyes. He also can manipulate guys in zones by moving them with looking them off and looking at the safety or looking somewhere else and being able to move guys in coverage and buy time with his feet to get it more explosive plays and let the other people, the young guys, do the running. And, he sit back and just deliver the ball and be a facilitator like John Stockton.
Baldy, what do you think of this? What do you think of this opportunity for Taylor in his 15th season? At this point in your career, you're not going to play forever, even though the guy looks like he can. But now he's back under center against a Baltimore team that you mentioned at the top here of the pod. They've won 4 consecutive games. That's the team that drafted you. They're battling for their playoff lives, and the Jets have showed, I agree with Aaron Glenn, what he said after Thursday night against the Patriots, that energy's been there. The urgency's been there. They just have to execute a little bit better.
Well, you're seeing fewer mistakes. The pre-snap penalties that plagued this team all last year and earlier this year, they're now a minimal thing. Special teams obviously is much improved. So, you're seeing this thing grow. But what Tyrod is, first of all, he was drafted by the Ravens. Like, you never forget who drafts you, where you come from. So going back to Baltimore, like, that will bring back good memories because he was on good teams back then. But regardless, like, he's backed up Flacco. He's backed up, Baker. He's backed up Justin Herbert. He's been a starter. He's been benched. He's been coming off the bench. He knows his role. So that's the most important thing for any player, any point in his career. What's your role? He knows his role. So right now they're asking him to start and lead a young team. Like, he knows how to do that. And he's seen
Mhm.
other guys do that. So he's learned every playbook. He's, Baker wasn't supposed to start. That was Tyrod's thing. And eventually you get moved out and they move on in Cleveland. But like, he's going to take all that experience and he steps in a huddle. And when he speaks, he's got command. Guys are listening to him. And so I think it's good for him. He can continue to extend his career if he chooses to, because, if he wants to play till he's 40, he can play till he's 40.
Yeah. And that's really what it is. It's solidifying your position, saying, hey, whatever young guy you decide to bring in here, draft next year or the year after that, I can mentor him. You saw Jameis solidified himself, I believe, as the backup for the Giants. You got some of these guys that are starters if they decide to. Not every guy can make that transition to say, hey, I'm not the guy anymore, and let me support the guys behind me in front of me, right? I think Russell struggles with that. But you look at guys like, Josh McCown. But, Tyrod was higher level than those guys. Look at the guy like Fitzpatrick. He was higher to that because he was picked to be a starter for an organization before. He's not a career backup. He's a backup that was a starter that now is a backup that can play forever if he wants to. He can play until he's 40, 43, 2 years old because he's a coach on the field. But when you call his number, he ain't got to be warmed up on the bike. Give him a time to warm up the old shoulder and go out there, and he'll go out there and he'll do a professional job.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of us, like, if the Jets decide to draft a quarterback, you would want Tyrod in that quarterback room with him. You'd want him to be a part of this thing going forward to help out anybody that comes in at whatever round he's drafted in. I mean, I'm sure Jameis has helped out. In fact, Jameis really wanted that role to help out Jackson Dart, with the Giants. And I think Tyrod would, embrace that position if he chooses to stay and continue the career.
Well,
It's a lot of money to pass.
we got a ways to go on that one, fellas.
state.
Let's take a break, and then we're going to dive more into the matchup. Jets fans, clear the runway at MetLife Stadium for Week 13 as the New York Jets take on the Atlanta Falcons Sunday, November 13th at 1 p.m., presented by New Jersey Lottery. Lock in your seats now at nyjets.com/tickets. The official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Personalize your game day look by shopping spirited styles and so much more at your local Kendra Scott store or kendrascott.com, where team spirit meets personal style. Okay, Bart, you touched upon it before. This unique Ravens run game. What do the Jets have to do? I'll tell you what, their performance against the Patriots is quite good. They had 25 carries for 67 yards, but this is a different animal.
Yeah, that's a totally different beast. You talk about the most explosive quarterback arguably in the history of this game, but he's added the ability to buy time when he chooses to throw the ball down the field. You're going to have tremendous eyes. Mark Andrews, I think, is playing some of the best football he's played in years. Isaiah Likely is a guy that you don't think about, but he can get matched up on your backup safety, and he can do work, right? So then you do all that, then you deal with the physicality of now with Ricard being back, what that brings to the table. It's so unique. You won't face another team like this that can put out a 250-pound tailback and a 305-pound fullback, but that fullback doesn't always line up as fullback. He can line up as tight end, and now you have extra tackle in, but the personnel doesn't suggest that. So you can go double like Baldy's talking about, where you got a double team and a double team, and if you allow Derrick Henry to get his feet going, and he gets his fourth step. I forgot who, I think it was Mike Vrabel who said, if you allow Derrick Henry to get his fourth step, good riddance, right? And it's going to be incumbent that these linebackers play downhill. But when you play downhill, that's when Mark Andrews and Likely get behind the linebackers, and you have these wide open gaps because, you're so tied in on running the ball, stopping the run. So if the Jets, stop the run, then it takes away some of that play action away from the Jets, from the Ravens, and they have a chance. But it can get ugly if you don't match the physicality of the Ravens, if they feel like they can just bully ball you.
Baldy, what have you seen from Lamar in terms of his legs coming back from the hamstring injury?
Because he's favoring his left leg. He's favoring it. It's just, but he still has a burst. He's not running nearly as much. He hasn't really run much all year. But I saw a play the other day. I put it on the video, EA, where Myles Garrett's coming. Like, I mean, he's just turned a corner. He's coming like a locomotive. And Lamar knows it. But he still, hit the gas pedal and, ran away and kept his eyes down the field, hit Zay Flowers, I believe, for a throw. He can still escape. He's not looking to run right now. If you're in man coverage and you guys are running down the field, he's not doing that the way he used to when he would run 4,000 yards. So I think he's a little cautious, but he's still deadly accurate. He's still throwing a lot of touchdowns. And honestly, he sees the whole field as good as anybody in this whole business. Like if he's on the scramble and his eyes are up, like, and you're open, or he'll throw you open if you're not open. Like his ability to find plays beyond the X's and O's is as good as anyone in this business.
Bart, how do you navigate that this week against Lamar? Jermaine Johnson, for the first time in his career, consecutive games with the sack, and he's been on fire in terms of pressures. I think 13 pressures the last 2 weeks. The Jets got to Drake May just one time. How do you balance as far as, hey, we want to keep him in the pocket and make sure he doesn't break contain, and also we want to heat him up at times, but you don't want to leave your secondary with these dudes running free, whether it be a Zay Jones or you mentioned the tight ends before. Andrews is really coming on. You got likely
Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins still can make a couple big plays, contested back shoulder plays. I think Lamar trusts him then. You have to have your plaster rules down. But, you have to rush as a unit. You can't go outlaw. You can't get up the field too far because Lamar used that and he'll escape, or he'll buy time and he'll see that. And, like, it can be so frustrating. It's like going against Michael Vick. Sometimes you may have to cover for 8 seconds, but if you want to make him throw it from a well, you don't want to present opportunities for him to run up. That's why a lot of times, you cross the inside guys to create the windows to close, and you have the guys on the outside not get past quarterback depth. And you tell the guys that, hey, we're going to stir the pocket, and our stunts are going to come from the inside, but we cannot not have edges for him because he can circle the defense. If he circles the defense, now that linebacker has to decide, do I step up to stop him, or do I stay back and get tremendous depth and just give up the yards? Because to Baldy's point, when you put those linebackers or those safeties in those positions, he's so accurate that he'll draw you in and throw the ball behind your head. Then you say, okay, well, I'm going to stay deep. And then he'll do that, and he'll run for 25 yards so quick and step out of bounds. And you're like, man, what am I doing? And, you don't want to have to keep having to rush this guy for 5 to 6 seconds and sit in your stands. I don't know if the Jets have the rotation of depth to keep up if you go on these 8-9 play drives with Lamar scrambling around to throw, not to pass. To throw, not to run.
Right. Baldy, what do you make of Quincy Williams, the way he's come back after returning to the lineup? Following the Cincinnati game, he took everything in stride, put his head down. He's been so professional, and, man, he's so explosive from the linebacker position, instinctive, and he's been really reading it well lately.
Well, they need them. You need your linebackers because you got to be able to clean things up in this game. Like, you can't let Henry get the runway going. You got to be fast to the. This is not the most athletic offensive line, so your angles and speed to the ball is critical, especially when they're running their misdirection stuff and some of the power stuff. Like, you got to beat these guys to the spot, and Quincy has that. He has that feel. He has that speed to the ball. It's critical to not let these guys get runways or alleys. And I feel like he can be really disruptive in that. And then, he's always been a good blitzer. He's always been a guy that can attack the line of scrimmage. He times it really well. And there'll be moments, when they'll dial that up. But I just think you need vacuum cleaners out there, just making, just cleaning these things up and not letting these 4-yard plays go for, 14 or 20 yards. And he has that ability to take that angle and get guys off their feet.
Bart, what have you seen from him on film? I gave you a couple plays this week where he's just been on it,
Well, he's had great eyes, right? We talk about, the pass to Henry to the flats, coming off a double pull, from near eye to far eye with the fullback trying to grab the linebacker's eyes. And then for the tight ends right now to block, and then take off. him having them in man coverage, just having great eyes and great awareness and a great feel for kind of what offenses are trying to do. You're going to get a lot of that with Baltimore. You're going to, and remember, the inside linebackers are like him are playing it from inside out, meaning they're lining out over the guard, but the man that you're responsible for in pass coverage is 2 bodies away from you. So he's already has you outflanked, but his tremendous speed to be able to, run down guys and close the distance is what you really love about him, his ability to cover ground, because that's really what you're going to have to do, especially with these new big tackles that they have. They're not great as far as pass rushing from the inside, but what they are is bodies that can eat up space, which allows the smaller linebackers of the Jets to be able to scrape. And you want to make sure that, you make the ball bounce and go laterally and not come downhill at them and then allow you to make tackles with angles. You got to rally to the ball.
Offensively, what are the Jets at? Go ahead.
I mean, remember, also, Derrick Henry early in the year had problems fumbling, right? Fighting for extra yards. If you can get back in his head and get opportunities to get the ball on the ground.
Jets need takeaways in the worst way. Offensively, what do you got to do with a guy like Kyle Hamilton? We were talking about it before we started tape, and they're using him everywhere, Baldy.
Well, you have to identify him, because he's always moving and he's in a different spot almost every play. So, but you have to account for him, especially when he's at the line of scrimmage. He'll match up on Mason Taylor at times, in certain situations, but you have to almost like the center the quarterback is calling out the mic, Roquan in this case, number 0. But like you also have to identify pre-snap Kyle Hamilton because he's just so disruptive in the way that they use him. I mean, he's literally, it's positionless football when you watch Kyle play. And so like he will disrupt your play if you don't account for him and know whether it's the twist stunts or, whether it's coming off the edge, like he, and he's tall. So he gets his hands up, he bats the balls down. He's just a tall, rangy, athletic guy that they use in a variety of ways.
Oh, yeah. He's a stressed out Palomalu. Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Sometimes his responsibilities, he has no responsibility and they just allow him to be a football player and do what he has to do. What I would really do early on, if he comes off on one of these blitzes, you cut him because he's a big guy and he trusts that nobody's going, because I'm a little guy or I'm perceived as a little guy, nobody's going to cut me. You cut them legs out. He has decisions to make when he comes at you. He won't come as fast because he knows he could get cut. And DBs and stuff aren't used to big balling and shooting when somebody's cutting you to punch the head and punch the shoulder. They kind of stop and stand straight legged and put their hands down. When you're a defense, we're taught to put our hands out and then put it down, punch the head, punch the shoulder to keep the guys from taking you out. I'll cut the hell out of him. That's what I'll do when he come up there. Because none of these guys wear thigh pads no more. Go cut him and chip him with that elbow right on that thigh board. See if how bad he want to blitz.
There's some old school football for you. All week long, in Baltimore, they're circling 20. What does Engstrand have to do to make sure that you're getting Hall the football in positive spots? We talked about the line before, but they're going to be selling out against the run here.
Yeah, that's all right. If you're selling out against the run, you can lead to big plays. So you can't be, you can't be deterred because you have a negative run or you've run for 2 yards. Like when they're gambling and they're selling out like that, it leads to big runs. Somebody's going to be out of the gap, and there's not the next layer to take care of things if you block it up right. Look, that opening drive against the Patriots, against a very good defense and the number 1 run defense in football, like that was a great drive. Like you'd like to, that I'm sure they, that was all, scripted on Friday and Saturday and walked through, and that's why they executed so well. Like I would put that drive up for everybody in the building to see and to go, this is what we could do to the same team, to a team like Baltimore. It takes the crowd out of it. It takes Lamar off the field. Like if you could put 2 or 3 of the drives like that together in this game, you're going to be in the game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Bart, let's end there. I think the Jets are totally growing. Like Baldy just mentioned, early in the year, we see these games getting away from them. Like the Cowboys game stands out. Now you're playing against the Patriots in 1-possession game. There's no moral victories. Not saying that, but the Jets are playing a better brand of football right now. They've become a more disciplined team. They've become a tougher out. And offensively, I've been really encouraged by, you guys talk about the line and running the football, and I mentioned it, Brees, is that teams been loading the box against them, and they've still had an ability to run. Now, if they can just pick up the pass a little bit, provide some more pop in the game like we talked about earlier on, you might have something here this week.
Well, they're getting comfortable in the system, right? And they're being able to get experience with each other so the packages can grow, right? Packages that maybe had 1 or 2 plays now have 4 or 5, and they have looks off of the other packages and looks off the looks. And that just comes with time and being inside of a system and understanding, having collective experiences. Well, we did this, and this is what happened to us. Like, if this happens, everybody learn from what happened in this situation. If this happens, you do this, right? And, we'll see what type of experience they have with Tyrod, with being in situations. I tell people all the time, a veteran's not a veteran because he hasn't made mistakes. He's a veteran because he's made the mistakes and he's grown from them not to make the same mistakes because he knows what to do in those situations. So what they're doing is they're getting experience in their packages. I was with Rex my entire career, but it didn't start off the way that people saw it. We had packages. We got beat by certain things. Other coaches had counters, and we're able to grow the package because we just had collective experiences that we can create. We can say, hey, man, we did this in this game. Remember back in the day, this happened. Let's just go back to this. And it may not even be in the game plan. We can bring stuff that wasn't in the game plan, but it could be, good for what was going on with us, and we can throw it in. And we can understand because when you're great on offense and defense, you don't know systems or plays. You understand concepts, right? Rex could create a fire zone, and we knew that if you were the widest guy on the fire zone, you're seam flat. If you're in the middle of the fire zone, whether you're D lineman, linebacker, or insert safety, your 3-receiver hook, and you're seam flat. It didn't matter, so he can create it. If we identify like, man, it seems like they run into this particular player every time. Okay, player fire zone. And it don't matter. However you end up in it with the formation, whether it's closed left or closed right, it's a fire zone. Oh, ain't nobody outside of me? I must be the same flat guy. And that's how you create. So that's what it is. When the whole idea of organized chaos is that, what's your plan? The plan is I don't have a plan.
Okay. Well, the plan next week is for us to be back maybe earlier next week for
who knows?
A special Thanksgiving.
Marty can have tea time.
Podcast. Thanks, fellas.